Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Honest Concepts Podcast. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good.
Guys, if you're new here, my name is Bronson Long. This is my instructor, Master Autry.
Hey, guys.
And
how you doing?
guys, every day or every week we come on here and we go back and forth on ideas and different topics and sharing our opinions and experiences and our thoughts and all that good stuff. Every different show, we have different topics. And one week it's my turn, one week it's your turn, and this week we are going to be going into chasing dreams.
Great topic.
Yes.
Great
Speaking of
topic.
dreams, today's weather was a dream. Nice and cool outside, windy. Oh, it's perfect.
Yeah, it was.
I know Miss Jenny Easter's in the chat, and I know she digs that type of weather.
How's she doing? Good?
She's doing really good. Yeah, she's good. It's everybody's just growing all the time. It's just so cool to see it happen.
Right.
So. But I got this idea. We talked a lot last week about jealousy.
Right.
And you had this thing you said last week when you were talking about there's times to cut things off.
Right.
And so I started thinking about, is there times to cut off a dream? And sitting there thinking about chasing dreams and what that means. And the longer I thought about it, chasing a dream, the more I started to not like that term, chasing the dream, right? To me, what it sounds like when you really think about it, to me, it seems like the dream's running away from you, you know, and you're trying to chase it down. And I just, the more I thought about it, the less I liked that. I didn't like the idea of chasing a dream. I thought the ideas of taking the steps towards it, it meets you along the path. And really, I think most dreams, you can call it a goal or whatever you want, a dream job or dream house or whatever. I think most dreams, maybe 85% of them are attainable for most people. I think, you know, I'm a little past due to go astronaut training and go somewhere, but maybe there was a time I could have taken that route, maybe. But I knew this guy, I've known him all my life, and really he's actually brilliant in so many ways, very creative, very inventive. One of those guys that I think he has this just either a screw too tight or a screw too loose in his brain.
There's a screw there.
There's a screw. So he's got part of the tools necessary, but he's got this weird talent of just, it's almost like he can capitalize on ideas like that.
Right.
I remember, back when like iPods and iPhones had just come out and people were coming up with, these apps, right? And these basic little games you're playing on your phone. And he came up with some that it sounded just funny at the time. It was just funny. And as the years went by, I'd see big games blow up. I'm like, that's really similar to the idea that this guy presented. He's just full of great ideas. And I love him to death, but he would always chase the wrong ideas. he would chase the ones that were the hardest to achieve all the time, And it's one of those things where I can have this dream of being a bodybuilder or a weightlifter or something. And it's great to have those dreams. There's nothing wrong with aspiring for those things. But if I'm like a daily customer at Krispy Kreme, I have a hard time making it into the bodybuilding leagues, right? And so chasing those dreams, I think, is something that can be achieved if we take these intentional steps. We think about, I want to be a martial arts instructor.
Right.
Well, what does that look like? How do I get there? And just mapping that out and just trying to take those steps accordingly and be intentional about those steps. So that's why I don't think dreams run away from you. I think it's something that you can achieve if you just walk towards them one step at a time.
That's pretty good.
Thanks.
I look at it as it promotes growth. It does. It promotes growth. Now, here's the problem. Or maybe not a problem, but here's the issue. It can promote positive growth or negative growth. Some people, will chase a dream. They'll leave their family, they'll leave their friends, they'll leave their religion, they'll leave their beliefs because they are so set on that dream. And that's the negative part. The positive one is to understand what to let go and what to hold on to as you chase a dream.
Right. That's a good point.
When I was 6 years old, I come from a baseball family. My dad played, semi-pro baseball, and that's all I did is play baseball. When I was 6 years old, 7, 8, 9, 10, all I wanted to do is play Major League Baseball. I got 14, 15, 16 years old. Every waking minute I was playing baseball. Excuse me, guys. And that's all I wanted. That was my dream. And when I turned 16, I walked in my first dojo. Everything changed. Everything changed. That was a dream for years. And that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to go to Wingate College, play, college baseball, semi-pro, then try to make it in the major leagues. But when I turned 16, got into martial arts, everything changed. It was a different dream. Even though I wanted it and I worked towards it, it was a dream, but it was yet, like you said, almost a mist because something changed it. And what changed it was I fell in love with the martial arts the first time I walked in. And I'm thinking, wow, all these years, that's all I wanted to do. I didn't even know anything about martial arts. So a lot of times, we don't know what the dream's going to be the outcome or what it really is to obtain it.
Yeah. So. Wow, that's a solid point. I think a lot of people can relate to that. Yeah. Sometimes you stumble upon something, you may not have even known it was a thing. It didn't exist.
Right.
And you stumble upon it and you're like, I have just fallen in love with this thing.
Food's the same way.
Food. Oh,
yeah,
yes.
You could do the same thing. I never thought about eating this or that. And you try it one day, it's like, man, I've been missing this all these years.
That's my experience with pad thai. I know I've said it before. I loved it. Yeah. As Carter showed me that thing, I heard there was crushed peanuts on it. I was like, that sounds so gross. Why would you want peanuts on your noodles? Whoa, was I wrong? I'm glad I was. It was delicious. I love that stuff. But I think you're right, because there's levels to dreams, right?
Yes.
There's some things like, this might sound silly, but I would one day, I'd like to have like a goat. I think goats are cool. I think they can mow the lawn for you. I think they're cool, but I'm not actively pursuing owning a goat. But it's like a little dream, have a little bit of land, have some goats, and whatever, maybe a cat or something. I don't know. And that's something that you kind of daydream about, and you're like, that'd be nice.
See, and the point is, it don't have to be a big dream.
Right.
It can be a small dream. Like I say, you want a goat, and I want whatever, but it don't have to be a big dream, a lifelong dream and a goal. It could be small dreams. We have those all the time.
And that's very true. That's very true. And I think there's a different pursuit of those things, right? There may be somebody out there who just has this crazy desire to be like a brain surgeon, just knows that, with these two hands I can save lives. Just let me in that office, and he's going to take his studies in school so seriously. He's going to do everything the right way because he's got that dream to do it.
Sure.
And then he may also have a dream to, one day I'd like to go on the world's biggest roller coaster, know? And that's something that's a little more on the passive side. It's not such an active pursuit. It's something that, if it happens, I would love that. And if it doesn't happen, it's not the end of the world. And I can get there when I get there type of thing, And
I think people, you sit there and you say, I want to chase a dream. A dream can be big or little, like we just said. The word chasing makes it look like it's going to be something big. You're not chasing to get a goat. You can buy a goat tomorrow.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm chasing to get a goat in my backyard. Well, that's not really chasing. That's a dream, but it's not chasing a dream. Right. People relate chasing a dream as something really big. Right? That's how I look at it.
Sure. I guess that's true. I guess it's, I don't know, I'm no English major, but when you think about that word chase, you think about effort. You think about, I'm running towards this thing. And if I'm going to be putting in work towards it, the reward better be worth the work, right?
Exactly.
Whereas like the goat is like, I'll go down to the farmer's market and buy a goat.
Buy one of those tomorrow.
Right, exactly. Probably get one on Amazon.
Get me tomorrow.
No. Please don't ever let me do that. Yeah, and I think that this is... it's good for young people to think about these things, because in today's world, you have so much opportunity. Right. You could make $1 kajillion doing a podcast or whatever, I've seen people who are artists who are just, they're good with spray cans. Yeah. And, 30 years ago, they would have been, on a train track shooting a railroad train. But now they're out here taking pictures for their Instagram, and they're getting art deals and commission work, and they have success in these things now. And so for these young guys and ladies, of course, you get out of high school. I've got a nephew who's dealing with this. He's getting out of high school soon. He's a brilliant kid, good head on his shoulders, no skeletons in his closet. He's athletic. He's good at academics. I mean, he's one of those things when you get out of school, it's like, I've got 1,000 routes to take.
Right.
And I talked to him one day about it, and I said, you've got the world at your fingertips, and you just don't know what's out there for you.
I told you the same thing.
Yes, sir. You did. Yes. And
You're a kid.
You're right. You just don't know what's out there.
Right.
There's so much possibility for you. I mean, you could be a lawyer, or you could go be a track star, or
You
whatever.
can visualize it for him, but he can't.
Right. I told him, I said, I don't know what it's like to be in your shoes like this, because I was in some ways limited to I knew college was out of the question.
Right.
I knew I couldn't do that. And I knew that there were certain routes that I just wouldn't be able to take because I don't know anybody in that field.
Right.
A lot of networking's a big deal, right? But I said, for you can go in all sorts of directions. I said, I don't know what that's like. And he said, sometimes it's kind of daunting. He said, I look at it and I don't know what to do. It's like, if I pursue one thing, there goes 6 or 7 years of my life. And what if it's something I don't enjoy? And that's kind of tough.
It is.
My mom put it this way when I was a kid. She was a public school teacher for something like 15 years, 20 years or something. And she said she learned early, if she took like this, big old plastic jug, it was full of little lollipops and candies and stuff, and she held the jug in front of the kid, pick one, he'd sit there forever. He didn't know what to do. But if she grabbed one, grabbed the other, put it in her hand, pick one, they'd snatch one real quick.
Right.
And that, in a lot of ways, was my life. Because I had limited options, I saw one, was like, that's the best, I'm going with that one. But for him, he's got this whole world out there.
It's like a buffet. You can go to a buffet, have 10,000 items on there. You don't know what to eat. You and I go to a buffet, you got 2 items. You want chicken or fish? I'll go chicken.
Right.
Just like the lollipop.
You're exactly right. It's the same thing. And
That's a good analogy.
yeah, it is. I feel for these kids, And so I think it's important to at least have an idea of what a dream looks like. And what is a small one versus a big one? What's realistic versus not? But here's my question for you, because you've got a lot more experience in this than I do. When is it the time? When do you call it the time to where you cut off that chase? You stop chasing that dream? I'm sure there's a lot of options.
For me personally?
Sure, yeah, for anybody, anything.
For me personally, if I chase a dream and it's starting to affect my family, me, my health, my morals and values, things like that, when it gets you so far off track. I knew a guy, a good friend of mine years and years ago. He was chasing a dream. Great guy. Friends, we're all buddies and stuff. He just changed. He got greedy and selfish and kind of a dark side. And didn't do anything illegal.
Sure.
But he just wasn't the same person. And is that dream worth it? To me, it's not.
Right.
So that's what I would say. When you start seeing change in your life and the way you think and the way you talk to people, the way you're around people, if it affects you, that's when it's time to, cut
That's a
that
good
dream
answer.
off, for me.
Yeah, it's a good answer. And I knew somebody once, really not the brightest tool in the shed, but this was pretty smart, they told me. They said there's 3 F's, and I changed it to 4 after I heard it. I was like, actually, I think there's 4 F's to this. And this person said, whatever you get involved in, if it affects these F's, it's time to walk away. And I changed it to 4. I think the 4 F's are faith, family, finance, and friends. Starts to affect any of those 4 F's, you just need to start weighing out some of these things and say, maybe I need to slow down just a little bit on this,
I've chased dreams before, like, the bigger ones, like having a dojo and stuff. I've chased those kind of dreams and stuff, but I try not to let that affect me or my family or being with Ms. Autry or our time together. It's hard, and you're finding it now. It's hard to balance.
It is hard.
I mean, you've got, you're working, you got children, you got car trouble, you got this, you got that. A million things pop up.
Right.
And you're like, I can't have this happen today. I got to be here, here, and here. And it's scary to be that involved.
It is.
But then again, at this fast-paced world, it's almost you have to.
Right.
In a way.
Right.
You have to.
You do.
That's just kind of a win-win or lose-lose.
It is, And I think maybe that's why we call it the dream, right? Living the dream, man. I got the American dream, my dream job, dream house type of thing, is that I think the outcome of it, the rewards of it are supposed to be so splendid that it almost is unrealistic, right? It's like, can this even be real? I can't believe this is a thing, That's how I feel every time I get to teach martial arts. Like, I can't believe I'm doing this. This is just crazy.
even the last class I taught when I had the full-time school, the last class I taught, it was still like a dream walking out on that floor.
Ooh.
I love it. I mean, it was never, I have to work today. I always tell people I get to teach tonight. I get to teach, just thousands and thousands of students and thousands of hours. But I was told Ms. Autry, the last time I walked down the floor, I told everybody I was closing after tonight's my last night. I gave them a month notice. But it was just like, man, I've enjoyed this tonight. I didn't want the night to end.
Wow.
It's not like, okay, I'm tired, I'm beat, it's my last day, I want to get out of here.
Right.
It was sad. Everybody left, I sat there and cried.
I bet.
I did.
Yeah, I bet.
I sat right in the dungeon and cried like a baby.
I was going to ask
you.
you.
The door. That was hard.
I bet. I was going to ask you what that's like, because so many people spend so much time working towards a dream,
right.
and to be a musician or whatever it's going to be, and so few, really, truly, so few ever get to get it and then hold on to it for 30 years or pursue it the way that you got to do, and you worked hard for that. And so the question I asked you before was, when is it time to cut off? What's it like now when people hear you're retired? You're still an incredible martial artist. You're still, a teacher. You still teach me and stuff. You don't do the school in a full-time thing. We still go do seminars and go to places and do talks and stuff. But that's kind of a different avenue, right?
It is.
So what was it like closing a door to the dream that you worked so hard for?
It was bittersweet. I was glad because I spent more time with Ms. Autry. I mean, she worked full-time job, coming there at night, and we were working so many hours. But it was bittersweet. Once I locked the door and we closed the school down, it was like, wow. It's like when you eat a great meal. You get back, you're hungry, you're starving, you eat it, you sit back and go, wow, that was good. That's the best way I can say it.
That's good.
Wow, that was a good 35-year run. But that's true.
Right.
But it was, like I said, it was bittersweet, but it was actually pretty sweet.
Yeah, I bet.
Because, I've done it so many years and so many lessons, just thousands of people. It was just, and I was 60, I think, 60 when I closed school full time. But I stay active after that because, we did a lot of teaching.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it was good, but it was bittersweet. But it was okay.
Yeah.
Once I got my cry out.
Right. Yeah. But there's something to that when you're closing. You ever watch a really, really good TV show? And the show ends, and every question has been answered, all the plots have been pulled to the surface, everything's good. But when the credits end, you're like, man, that was so good. You're almost sad it's over, but you're happy you got that closure. Right. It's a bittersweet's a really good answer for that. That's I don't know. I can't even imagine what that feels like.
Now, I've had people own a business and stuff, and I said, I feel like they're really retired. They said, well, man, I'm so glad. I hated what I did and this, that, but I never did.
Right.
I never hated 1 second. I loved it. Every time I walked down the floor, I was like, just excited.
Yes, sir. That was contagious. That was and I know you well enough to know you're not one that dwells in the past type of thing. No. I've seen you personally make all sorts of changes in your life over the 13 years that I've known you, and you're always happy about that type of stuff. I think you're in this realm where you recognize when the door is shut, don't try to reopen it.
No, because if you do, and what happens then? You can't open it. You don't want to open it. You start getting bitter. That's how I look at it. And I don't want to be bitter. Right. Good Lord put me on this earth, and I'm going to enjoy it.
Right. It's going to be sweet.
Exactly.
We'll have a sweet time here.
That's right.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, let's open the door to look at some of these chats here. Ms. Jenny Easter says tunnel vision would be the phrase. You're right. When you get that goal in your mind and you're just pursuing it actively. She says, I love goats. They are the top 5 get. Yes. I'm loving that energy. The goats are awesome. What would you say to someone who missed their chance or was not able to achieve their dream and now it's too late? I'll go first on that one.
All right.
Someone who missed their chance, say it's too late to achieve their dream. I would say that the dream, sometimes you wake up from a dream and you can kind of remember it, but you don't remember all the details, right? Sometimes when you're in a dream, where you are suddenly changes. I was driving in the car and all of a sudden I was in a McDonald's. I don't remember parking. I was just in the McDonald's.
Right.
I've recently seen, we talked about this last week, just this crazy, right turn that I've made in the martial arts, doing something that I never thought I would do.
Yeah.
And it's not, if you would have asked me for 12 and a half years, what does it look like to teach martial arts? This wouldn't have been my answer. What I'm currently doing now wouldn't be my answer. And so I don't know if there's ever really a too late or you missed the chance. I think you just have a different opportunity ahead of you. And then sometimes you just don't really see what that might be, because this isn't the road you plan to go down. You didn't have a map for this, so you don't know what's ahead.
What was our question? One more time.
So what would you, or I'll read it so I don't mess it up. What would you say to someone who missed their chance or was not able to achieve their dreams and now it's too late?
Wow. That's pretty tough.
That is a tough one.
Yeah. First thing comes to my mind, excuse me. First thing comes to my mind would be, if you missed your dream, there's one of two things. You set a goal that is way, way too high. I mean, I know I can't be an astronaut.
Right.
Or you didn't go down the right avenues. It's got to be one of the two.
Sure.
I mean, we missed something because, let's say I'm going to shoot a gun at a target. My dream is to hit that target 500 yards, and I can't hit it, but I can hit it at 100 yards.
Right.
I set my goals too high or too far sometimes. I've seen people do that. But really, just have to regroup.
Right.
I mean, that's the best thing I can say. I mean, I've had dreams I couldn't reach, and I just regrouped. I wanted to do a certain thing in martial arts by 6 months, and I couldn't do this technique, or I couldn't do this tournament like I wanted. So I had to regroup, go to a smaller tournament, and then I would go to a bigger tournament.
You're right. And good things come to those who wait. I think some of the most famous artists, some of the most famous civil rights activists, big famous people like Dr. Seuss or whomever, a lot of their greatest accomplished works, they were past the age of 50, 60. Yeah. You know what I mean? These people had enough time on earth to get wise, and sometimes it feels like you missed your shot. But like how you were saying, you're shooting that gun at that target, and you may have missed that target, but you hit something. Right. You know what I mean? You just got to go find what you're hitting. Right. What'd you hit? And unfortunately, life is just unpredictable. That's why when I said earlier, I think 80 to 85% of the dreams are achievable, because things can happen. You can get in a car accident. You didn't plan for that. There's all sorts of things.
Babe Ruth, old baseball player, he hit the most home runs at the time. And they asked him, how does it feel to hit the most home runs? He said, it feels good, but I struck out more than anybody.
Oh, wow. Yes.
So it's quite what you look at.
You're so right.
That's what he said. He said, yeah, but home runs were nice, but I struck out more than anybody in the league.
Wow. There we go. Miss Jenny Easter says, it is never too late. Just my opinion. Miss Connor says, I would say a good time to cut off the dream is before you go deeply into debt. Miss Jenny says, I started martial arts at 43. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. I've seen people walk out onto your floor who are well into their age and do well.
The oldest one I ever had was 71, actually my age. He's 71 years old when he came out.
It's incredible.
Years and years ago.
That's incredible.
He stayed for a couple of years.
It's, people look at it sometimes and think, I might get hurt or it's scary or whatever. Right. But, if you go out there and give it a shot, you'd be surprised what you can do. Yeah, really, truly, with some good guidance. I can't tag on mobile, but Miss Jenny, I'm too old to get into big professional dance companies, and I'm a mom now, so that dream is unattainable, but I can rework and minimize that dream to local gigs. I'll never dance on the, quote, big stage, if that makes sense. Yeah, I guess the days of maybe being a Rockettes out of the picture, right? And I
Who was that?
That's Miss Connor saying that. Yeah. And that happens, right? I mean, I'll probably never star in a movie with Bruce Lee or Chuck Norris, That'd be awesome. That'd be really cool. I'd love to do a choreographed fight scene with Chuck Norris. That'd be awesome.
That'd be a dream.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. But the likelihood of that happening is not going to, it's just not likely. And these things are affected sometimes by our choices and sometimes things that aren't our choice. Right. I made the choice to become a father, right? And that has made forever difference on my life. And the route that I could take is forever impacted by that choice. And sometimes choices do that. Sometimes things are out of our choice, like we said before, car accidents or whatever. Things happen. And those are big dreams, you know, being on that quote big stage, going to a Broadway and performing there. That's one of those things that Miss Jenny was saying, tunnel vision. I mean, you do in some ways to hit those big dreams. You do have to cut off your friends and family and stuff, and just you pursue that with all you got. You know, I don't know of many other ways to hit those dreams. It's hardcore. Miss Jenny says, never say never, Connor. You can do whatever you want. Maybe you have to change how you do it, but there's always a way. I immediately replay a show that I like. Mrs. Archer says that means you still have a dream, and even if it makes a different direction, it doesn't mean you failed. More success will come. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. It's just a weird turn down the road. You make a map. I think a lot of people do this, is when you have a dream, you make a map and you write it out. This is where I'm going to go. This is what this is going to look like. And you expect some things aren't going to go as planned, but you don't expect to start going down a road you don't have a map for. Right. And sometimes the most beautiful treasures can be found down that road.
Sometimes it's better. Mm-hmm. It is. Sometimes it's better.
You're right.
It really is.
You're right. Sometimes the things we want so bad isn't really the things we need. Right. The I don't know, just the way it touches my heart to do what I'm doing, working with these disabled adults in martial arts, it's incredible. I mean, the smiles on their faces and the thing, they just get so happy and enjoy their time. It's just incredible. I get to share that passion.
You're touching them like nobody else touches them.
Right.
You know, I'm going to get to walk in there and see you do something, and they might not can do the technique, but they can think that they can, or they think that they will. And even if they do a little bit, it just opens their world.
There's so much experience there and so much joy, you know. And just to make those baby steps to get towards a technique, you know, it's progress. And that just, nothing is cooler than a student who appreciates little progress, right? You know, you got the student who comes in, I'm ready to do big throws and chokes. I want to do all this stuff. It's like, slow it down, coach. You know, slow it down. But you get a student that appreciates the little things, you know.
And the guys that are usually really pretty good in martial arts or anything, it could be building blocks or whatever. Somebody's really good in the beginning, they're really missing the struggle to get there.
You're right.
They really do. It goes right over their head.
Yes, sir.
It's like that kid we talked about was so good.
Right.
I didn't want to teach him too much.
He was just, he was talented.
He was so talented. He was really missing working towards something because everything came so easy.
Right.
So down the road, if he goes to do something that's not easy, he's going to have a hard time handling it.
You're right.
He's going to have a hard time handling it.
You're right.
He is.
There's a certain bit of challenge that comes to it that is, it's very, very rewarding.
Exactly.
You know, and I think I asked you one day, when was like that light bulb moment? When did it click? And you were like, I don't know. That's a hard question to ask. Yeah. And in some ways, I kind of see it a little bit, just a touch, is that, you know, there are some techniques that just feel really good. I've done them 10,000 times, you know, and they didn't always feel that way. Right. And it wasn't like, oh, on the 5,000 and first time I did it, right? You know, it just didn't. It's just I think one of the greatest analogies you ever told me was you carve steps up a mountain. You know, you don't chisel them, you don't cut them, you don't gnash at them. You carve it, and it just takes time.
Methodical,
right? It's methodical,
very methodical.
And I think dreams are like that too. You know, you're just carving those steps, one step at a time, and sometimes you have to adjust the path. Right. It's tricky. Yeah. It's really tricky. That got deep. That was a really fun conversation. Connor says Bruce Lee's dead. Say it ain't so. I didn't know. I didn't know. Wow. Well, sir, I really enjoyed this. That was fun. It's nice to hear some of your perspectives on that. I don't think anyone can understand until they've experienced what it's like to shut that door to that dream that you work so hard for. So that was a really cool thing to be able to hear you talk about.
Yeah, that was cool. I enjoyed it.
That was exciting. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. I know I certainly did. Wow. And we will be back again next Tuesday. We maybe listen to a little bit of music or something, right?
Yeah, we got something different planned for the next different kind of podcast. I think
I'm excited for it.
I am too.
Yeah, we've got some things to work on, but when we do, it's going to be a great time.
Yeah, you want to say something?
Okay, great.
We're good.
All right. We're clear. Okay, guys. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you back here next Tuesday.
All right, guys. Thanks.